Hey guys,
Hello.
we're gonna get started in just a few minutes. I just want to let people who want to come in, and then we can get started. All right?
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. Just one quick question. Do you guys have the document that Francis sent with questions?
Is it in a Gmail?
It was sent with the email announcement. Do you guys have it, or if you'd like, I can put it in the chat because I think we're going to be referencing that throughout the meeting. Okay?
Yeah, is it Kai will review real release ISE questions found here? Is
Yes,
it
it's that one.
yeah, okay, thank you.
No worries. I'm gonna airdrop it to my computer and then I'll put it in the chat as well for Max too. Hi, Aiden. So I just sent in the chat the document that we'll be referencing for our session today. Do you have it or did you get the document? Are you there? You know what? We'll wait. Okay, cool. Okay, that's what we'll be referencing. We're going to start. You didn't get the document, Max? All right, I will send it again. One moment. But we're going to get started at 5. But while we wait, I can give you guys a brief intro. My name is Kai. I'm an incoming sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania. I am studying, oh, we got a new person. One second. Hi, Christian. Hey, guys. I promise you guys can turn on your cameras. I won't bite. I also won't randomly call on you all, but I'm here today to help you guys with your ISEE exam. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna give myself an intro and then I want to kind of hear from you guys because we can do it one of two ways. I'm quite adaptable. I could either go through the basics. No, this is for ISEE, but SAT is sort of very similar, Max. So this can help you with that exam as well. All right. So I'm a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm actually working here for the summer on a research study. I'm double majoring in molecular bio and Mandarin Chinese. And yeah, I, like you guys, have taken the ISEE to go to a private school in New York and I've taken the test like you guys are attempting to do. And I'm here to help. I went to the Dwight School, if any of you guys know that school. Yeah. So do you guys have any specific areas that you'd like to go over? You can tell me out loud, you can drop it in the chat, or we can kind of go through what the exam is and I can pretty much take you through a few practice questions from both the reading and the math or writing. What do you guys want to do? You need help with geometry. All right, you guys can tell, this will be most productive if we all speak through what we want to go over. Geometry 2. Hi, Lena. Math. Okay, so I think so you guys mainly want to go through math. All right, so we can go over some math questions. Hi, Lena. I gave myself an introduction to everyone else, but my name is Kai. I'm a sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania. or UPenn it's called too. I'm studying molecular bio and Mandarin, and I have taken the ISEE to go to high school in New York. I went to the Dwight School, and I am here to help you guys too. Alrighty, so let's go over some math. Let me at least tell you guys a little bit about what the math section looks like on the ISEE. So hold on just a moment. I'm going to resend that document containing everything that we're going to go over. Alrighty, and this is the upper level. Are you guys all taking the upper level exam?
Yes.
All right, great. Oh, we've got a lot of people coming. Cool stuff. So I guess we can spend, now that a lot more people have joined, I kind of asked a lot of people at first what they would like to go over, math or reading or writing. Those of you that have just joined, what would you like to go over? Math? Okay, so everyone's saying math too. All right, just want to make sure. So in the math, you'll have two different math sections. You have the quantitative reasoning section, and you'll have your mathematics achievement section as well. You get 37 questions for the quantitative reasoning section, and you have 47 questions for the mathematics achievement. For the quantitative reasoning section, you have 35 minutes. If you do the math, divide 37 questions by 35 minutes, by 37 questions, you have a little bit less than a minute to answer each question. So this first section goes relatively quickly. By the way, I'm looking at that document I added in the chat. So if you guys wouldn't mind scrolling, I'm at page 18 right now, talking through the basics of what the exam is, how it's structured. For the mathematics achievement section, again, you're kind of stuck. You have a little bit less than a minute to answer each question. So you have to plan your time strategically. Each question gets incrementally more challenging. So what you have to do is spend as little time as possible through the first couple of questions, the first half of questions, in order to give yourself enough time to spend more than a minute on the last several questions on the exam. Everyone got it? Yes, no, you guys can talk, you guys can turn on your cameras, awesome. Alrighty, so let's go through some sample test questions. I'm on that first sample test, and I will go to that first math section. Hold on. One moment. I'm just trying to get through to the document and we can get started. Hold on. Okay, yes, I am on page 29 of the document. Are you guys all there? Yes? Okay, cool. So we're going to get started with that first question. What I'm going to do is I'm going to join with my iPad and I will share my screen so that you guys can see how I work. All right? One moment. I'm going to open up the document first from my computer. Okay. Sorry, one moment. Kind of got technical difficulties, but we're working with it. Make myself a co-host. And I'm going to share my screen. Yes, hold on. If you guys, I'll resend the document. Okay, thank you so much for sending that document again. I am going to share my screen. Why is it not working? You know, I'll just do whiteboard instead. Can you guys see? Okay, cool. So for this first question, do you guys all have it? It is question numero uno. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to let people in as well. Okay, so the first question is, if A is a factor of n and B is a factor of m, which statement is true? All right. Let's try out an example. So my best way whenever I'm given variables and I have things to work with. Oh, you don't see Max? Okay. Can you open up what I'll do, Max, is I will send like screenshots of the work afterward, okay? For right now, follow along with what I'm saying, and also I'll send PDFs later, okay? And also look at the document too. All right. I like to go through it by doing using numbers to substitute in for variables. Sometimes my brain doesn't work right that way. It's best for me to see the variables in action with numbers. That's a very important strategy that you guys can use when you're not necessarily sure of what they're trying to say, what they're trying to get you to solve. If you don't understand the variables, just use numbers and plug numbers in to whatever equation or whatever variables they're giving you. So let's say that A is equal to 3 and that B is equal to 5. Let's say that N is equal to 6 and M is equal to 20. All right. Remember, A has to be a factor of N. So 3 times 2 gives you 6, so A is a factor of N. And B is a factor of M. 5 times 4 is 20. So they're both factors. We've fulfilled all the requirements. You got to make sure, read carefully, look at the requirements that the question is asking you. If I were on my document right now, I would be underlining the word factor. I want to make sure that I'm aligning each variable with what they're asking specifically. So what's the one thing I want you guys right now in the chat to tell me what I just said? What is the one thing you should do first? You got to underline what? You guys, what do we underline? What's important? We underline the variables and the terms they're using in the question. So they use the term factor. We want to make sure that what we're plugging in is a factor. We want to make sure that we line up everything properly so that we put A with N and B with M. Alrighty. So now that we've gotten that out the way, also, I'm going to be asking you guys periodically throughout to kind of work with me. So please feel free to use the chat as well. So let's try A. NM is a multiple of AB. Well, let's see. N times N. Wait, sorry. Yes, N times M. 120. NM. AB. 15. And yes, 120 is, in fact, a multiple of 15. There's your answer. But it's much easier to plug things in. The first tip I have for you guys with math, you're going to plug in numbers for variables. All right, you guys, repeat back to me. Someone in the chat, type to me what I just said. What is one of the most important tips I can give you? What is the tip I just gave you? Thank you. Yes, we underline variables. We underline words and terms that they're using too, multiples. And we also want to underline, if I were showing you that sheet right now, I would have multiplied factor as well. And of course, if A was not the answer, we would have gone down through the test and plugged things in as well. All right, let me take a screenshot and we're gonna save that for later. Okay, cool. Next question. All right. So we're looking at column A, we have, oops, is it working? 1/117 to the -2. And in column B, verses, we're gonna write big verses here, 1/17 to the -1/2. All right, so do you guys know your rules for exponents? Can someone tell me what the rule is for negative exponents? Does anyone know? Christian, I'm gonna ask you to unmute yourself and I wanna hear what you have to say.
For the negative exponents, you have to flip the numerator and denominator, and we just have to, and you make it, and it all of a sudden becomes positive, so you just square it. So it'd be 17/1, and it just be squared to get the answer.
Perfect. Yes. So if I'm writing this using exponent rules, you're going to get that column A, or 1/17 to the -2, is really just 17 squared. And then here, this one is just going to be the square root of 17, because whenever you're given a fraction as an exponent, fraction indicates square root. Okay, so if you're taking root 17, it's somewhere in between 4 squared, so you got 4, and then also 5 squared. So it's somewhat in between 4 and 5, like if you're looking at the root, sorry, 4 and 5. Whereas 17 squared, well, that's a pretty big number. We already know that this is going to be much greater than that. So right there, your answer is A as well. Alrighty, so moving on to the next set of questions. I want you guys to scroll to page 31, all right? Oh, hold on, I see your question. Does any fraction as an exponent translate to the square root, or is that just for 1/2? Aiden, you bring up a good point, and I'll tell you right now, every fraction that's raised to an x, every fraction as an exponent will be the root of that denominator. For example, if you have 2 to the 1/3, 2 raised to the 1/3, that would equal the cube root of 2. All right, I'm gonna ask right now. So given that answer and given what you see above, if I write down what's 2 to the 1/6, what does that equal to? Can someone tell me in the chat? You can also unmute yourself as well. Remember, you've got less than a minute in the test, so I want to hear some answers. Yes. Good job, Max. That's exactly right. It would just be the 6th root. Oops, excuse me. That does not look like a root. The 6th root of 3. Okay. Next question. We're going to be focusing on some algebra. Cool stuff. And it never goes away. In college, the first thing you do is go over algebra in any math class. So it's an important topic. So for question number 1, if x squared plus y squared equals 40, and you have 2xy equals 24, what is the value of x plus y squared? Alrighty, let's get started. We've got some options right now. What I would do immediately I would first divide this by that just to get every number on one side. I don't like seeing variables next to numbers if I can simplify. So first step, simplify. So we would make this xy equals 12. But actually, you know what? No, we can do it both ways. There's another trick that I'm seeing, but we'll go over it this way first. You found the PDF, Max? Great. You know what? Actually, I don't like this way because I feel like this way is slower. You want to go over with the fastest method as possible when you're taking the exam. So immediately I see this right here, FOIL it out. I'm gonna first simplify, then if I can't, which I'm not going to do that part, I'm going to then just FOIL. And you're gonna get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. And since we know that 2xy equals 24, you can say that x squared plus y squared plus 24. You can just write those out. Next. Then, because we have this information here, we know that 4 also equals, you know, actually, I'm going to go with my gut. My first instinct was probably better. Simplify first. Two xy equals 24, xy equals 12. Oh, wait, no. The other way was right. You guys, which way do you think, which way would you do it? Would you first simplify or would you go with the foiling method? What do you guys think, or what do you guys want to see? There's 2 ways to do it. In fact, I'm just going to show you both ways. You would simplify first? All right, then we can do it this way. Okay. Then I'll show you the other ways afterward. What is foiling? Okay, so when you FOIL, you're turning, if you look at this first question, you have x plus y. Hold on, what is FOIL? X plus y squared. But you can't just say that doesn't equal x squared plus y squared. No. When you FOIL, it's a way of multiplying functions that look like this. It really equals x plus y times x plus y. Then you would go multiply the x times the x, which you get x squared plus x times y, which gives you xy. Then you get the same thing here. You get a y times an x, that makes it 2xy. And then you get your y times your y, which is plus y squared. That's foiling. Foiling is a method of multiplying functions like this. Okay, so using that method, we would get that, but that's okay. Going back to solving the actual problem, 2xy equals 24, we're simplifying. So you're gonna get that x times y equals 12. Sorry, I forgot to write the 40. Now what you wanna do is you want to find a function or numbers that can fulfill this. It just so happens that 2 and 6 also fulfill both obligations of the question. So x times y has to equal 12, because when you multiply 2 and 6, you get 12. And just doing it on my head, if x is 2, 2 squared is 4, 6 squared is 36. That does in fact equal 40. All right, when you add, the question is asking, what is the value of x plus y squared? Well, if we have x is 2, y is 6, 2 plus 6 is 8, 8 squared equals 64. So your answer should be C. That's one method to do it. The other method for the question is that we can use that method I was talking about, foiling. You would factor out this x plus y squared, which gives us, when you do that, like how I did over here, you get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. We know that the 2xy, looking at what we've been given in the problem, right, equals 24. So it says that that's equal to 24. But wait, we also been given another tip in the question. X squared plus y squared equals 40. And it just so happens that we have an x squared plus a y squared. So x squared. So we have 40 plus 24, which equals 64. So there's two methods of doing it. If you don't feel comfortable with foiling things out, your best bet is to simplify and plug in variables. Like I said before, plugging in variables can be your safety net for a lot of these problems. But this is just a shortcut if you feel comfortable, if you feel confident using that skill. Alrighty, next. Column A, you have x squared. Column B, you have x cubed. Now, off the top of your head, you'd be like, wait, one is cubed, it's x times x times x. You would think that'd be bigger, right? Then you have your x squared. What do you guys think is gonna be biggest? Are you guys there? Exactly, Aiden. It would be undetermined. Because do you know what x means? We don't know what x means. We don't know if x is 100. X can be 100. X can also be negative 100. They don't tell us what x is. So if I were to plug in x is equal to, say, 10, well, make the math easier, just so we can prove a point. Okay, you got 10 times 10 times 10. 10 times 10 is 100. 100 times 10 is 1,000. Right? And then you got squared, you get 100. So in that case, yes, this will be, the x cubed would be larger. But what if it's negative 10? If we change that positive 10 to x is equal to negative 10, x is equal to, again, negative 10. I already wrote that twice. Then we run into a different issue where you have negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10. If you have an odd number and it's negative and you're multiplying, if you're multiplying an odd number by other odd numbers, if you're multiplying a negative number an odd number of times, that answer is going to be negative. So you would get negative 1,000. So let me say that again. When you multiply an odd number, a negative amount, when you multiply a negative number an odd amount of times, you're going to get a negative answer. But when you square it, when you multiply a negative times a negative, or you multiply a negative number an even amount of times, you're going to get a positive answer. So then it kind of flips where you get that x squared is bigger than x cubed. So that's why the answer would be undetermined. You never, never, never want to, you always have to, yes, Aiden, negative 1 to the third power would be negative 1. You want to always make sure that you're not falling for these little traps, these little tricks. They want you to think, oh, wait, if it's the power multiple more times, that means that it's larger, but not always. Sometimes even if you have that gut instinct, you want to make sure that you check that gut instinct too. You never want to get, you want to be confident when you're taking an exam, but you also want to make sure that you check your work, that you think logically, and that you give yourself enough time to not fall for those mistakes as well. Because this is something that if you're rushing, you would easily fall for. Alrighty. Let me scroll down to some geometry. I know you guys wanted to go over some geometry. All right, we're going to be on page 33. Everyone go to page 33, please. All righty. So we're looking at the sum. So if I were to have you guys tell me what you would underline in this question, I want people in the chat to tell me, to type in the words that they would underline. What things don't you want to mess up in this question? What things are important? What's important information that you need to solve the question? You guys can either type it or you can unmute yourselves. Whenever you're taking a test, your pencil is your best friend. You want to underline, a circle, draw a star next to anything, any words that can be misconstrued or mistaken for something else. So in the chat or out loud, tell me what you would underline in the question. And we'll go over and see if that's something that I would highlight as well. Just the important information. You don't want to highlight everything. You guys. You don't see the question on page 33. I am right here. It says sample question, geometry. I'll send a screenshot in the chat. How about that? Yes, it's the sum of the interior angles one. I also put in the chat, hold on one second. It might just take a little bit to load. Oh, you got it? Awesome. So you guys, someone speak out loud. Tell me what are some words that you would highlight or underline when you're taking the test. Underlining is your best friend. It's probably one of my second most important rules. Sum, absolutely. That's honestly the first thing that my eyes went to, because it's easy to mistake sum or read over it, and you could multiply or divide instead of doing what the question's asking. You always underline exactly what the question is asking you to do. One moment, my computer is going haywire. Okay. Interior angles, correct too. And you have n sides. I would also just, yeah, underline, I would underline n sides as well. The 180, the numbers I kind of think are kind of clear. Now you have your column A, the measure of an interior angle of a regular quadrilateral. And then you've got the measure of an interior angle of a regular hexagon. So immediately I would be highlighting or underlining quadrilateral and hexagon because they're two distinct shapes, and that is completely different. Alrighty. So let's get started. The sum of the interior angles of a polygon with n sides is 180. We always write down the formula. 180 times n minus 2. We have that n is the amount of sides. So for quadrilateral, it's in the name. Quad means 4. You have 4 sides. So you know that n would be 4. So you have for quadrilateral, for column A, you have that n equals 4. You write 180 times 4 minus 2. And you have, keep going, basic math, 2 equals 360. Now let's try column B. You've got hexagon, got 6 sides. So n is equal to 6. You have 180 times 6 minus 2. You're going to get 4. 180 times 4 is equal to 360 times 2. You're going to get 720. And this is greater than 360. So B, the answer is B. The column and the quantity in column B is greater. Another way to help you with this is you could honestly draw it out as well. If you feel, especially with geometry, if you feel shaky, we are talking about the question on page 33. Look at page 33, we're doing geometry question, the geometry sample question that they provide us with. But we just finished. But my third tip for you guys of the day is to draw it out. If you are ever feeling confused, if you want to visualize it, you can draw out a quadrilateral. You can draw out a hexagon, right? And you can use that to help you as well as a guide, to visualize the angles, to look at things in scale. But sometimes what they'll do to trick you is they will also use images in the question, but sometimes those images will be distorted so that the scale is not the same as what they're actually trying to get you to answer. So sometimes while drawing can be helpful when you're really in need, you also don't want to be so reliant on pictures that you can't do it without the image as well. So you want to be able to try and practice doing it both ways. Alrighty, our next question is on page 35. We are doing measurement. Measurement time. Do you guys want to stick with math, or do you guys also want to go to reading as well? We have about we're halfway through. Reading too? In fact, you guys got to flood the chat. If one person says it, it's not enough. I need multiple people to let me know. Math, we got one reading, we got one math. Oh my goodness, who will win? reading, math, reading, 2 readings, math. Keep coming, keep coming. What kind of reading? The questions that they have, reading comprehension questions. That's what they have on the test. The ones that like the reading questions that they have on the exam. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3. Okay. So I can see if this sample book has a factorial question, but I don't know if it does. I don't think we have any, but what I can do is I can take notes, Max, on the NCR formula ones, and we can work on those next week because I'll be here next week too. You guys can also put in the chat specific topics you want to go over for next week, so that way I can get you guys some questions for them as well. So how about this? I got more reading responses, so we will switch over to reading. But right now, before we go, can you guys send me in the chat some topics in math that you would like to cover? All right. So I got one person telling me NCR, probability, geometry. Okay. Anyone else? We're about to switch over. You got a minute. Probability and geometry. I will take note of that right now. Functions of factoring. Okay, so what we can do is, since it seems like you guys have a lot of math topics, I will take notes of these, and next week we will go over these specific questions. Since you guys showed up and you came, you guys get to help me pick the next topics for next week. Cool stuff. Alrighty. So for right now, we're gonna call it a wrap on the math end of things, but we will get started with reading right away. If they will let me share my screen, then I can do it. One moment, guys. I am going to get started right now. Can everyone please turn to page 39? We're going to look at the reading comprehension questions there, all right? And thank you guys so much for giving me those questions, those topics for math. We'll go over them next week. Scout's honor. Everyone there on page 39, type a yes in the chat. If yes, type a no in the chat if no. Oops, I don't want to share my screen here. All right, nobody is saying anything. Okay, we got one. Thank you very much. Honestly, let me tell you how I would highlight or how I read. When I take any sort of exam, whether it be this exam, SAT or ACT, my first inclination is to go through the questions, because sometimes there are questions that you can answer without necessarily having to read the whole text. Your job in this exam is to answer as many questions as you can in as little amount of time as possible. That means you want as many tips and tricks that you can to help you answer the questions as quickly and as accurately as possible. So let's go, let me look through the questions first before I do anything. Usually you'll get a grammar question, and it's okay. It looks like we don't get that. But what I can say is, let me go through the questions, because these are also common question types that you'll see on this exam. Whenever you get a primary purpose question for a passage, you don't actually have to read the whole passage all the time to get what the primary purpose is. Oftentimes, they'll trick you though by if you just read the first sentence. You don't want to just read the first sentence. You do actually have to read, but you don't have to read everything. you can take a look at A, the first several sentences, or B, the last several sentences. So you can do it that way. You can also read the first sentence of every paragraph in order to get those main idea questions. So that's one way of answering it. But let's do it right now. I'm going to give everyone about a minute or 2 minutes, and we're going to read the first sentence of each paragraph, okay? So let's do that. I'm going to give you guys a minute. We're going to read the first sentence of each paragraph. All right? I'll mute myself and then I'll unmute again after a minute. I want you guys to take note of how I read, though. I want you guys to take note of what you see me do on the screen as well. All right, guys. I've highlighted the important words. Anyone, you guys start shouting out words that you see that have been highlighted multiple times. What do you see that's highlighted multiple times? 1 second, I can't actually see the chat. That is not smart. How can I ask you questions if I can't see? Yes. Latin America. So yes, we know that the main idea has something to do with Latin America. What else? What else do we see? See a lot of women, right? Women. Shirley. We have Georgie Ann Grier before her articles. So we've gotten the idea of femininity and also of Latin America. And it's also about what? The press. It's about writing. Those are 3 main ideas that we know. Exactly. We know that this question has to cover. So right off the bat, this talks about women, but does it talk about Latin America specifically? No. Does it talk about the press? No, can't be A. Describe the living conditions. Where did we see living conditions? We never saw the words living conditions at all. I didn't see it at all. So it can't be B. Sorry, I highlighted that by accident. It is not B. Describe one route by which a number of women became successful journalists. Okay, so they hit 2 of them, but they didn't hit all 3. Let's see. Then we have compare the career of Georgie Ann Grier with the careers of Nellie Bly and Shirley Christian. This one could be correct. So I think what we can say is that we've narrowed it down successfully that A and B are just completely wrong. They make absolutely no sense. I am going to strike through. Exactly. So your first goal, as I said before, whenever you get a main idea question, you don't have to read the whole passage yet, but you can immediately look for common words that can determine the main idea of the text, like what we just did. Then you want to rule out things that are just completely wrong. So now we have C and D. Now, personally speaking, I'm curious, in the chat, you guys, tell me what you think it should be. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Or you can talk out loud as well. You think it's C. Why do you think it's C? Whenever you give me an answer, you have to be able to explain it too. Can you explain why you think it's C, Aiden? I'll tell you right now, I also agree, but I'm curious to hear, I want your peers to hear why you think it's C. Talks more broad. That's also another great tip. Whenever you're looking at the main idea, you never want to pick something that is too specific to only a certain aspect of the text. Exactly. D's looking at just those 4 people. It's not necessarily comparing their careers, but rather, hold on one second. My computer is going haywire. But they're not comparing Georgie Ann Geyer's career to the others. The passage focuses on how they each became successful correspondents for Latin America. So that's why C is the correct answer. And the funny thing is, it doesn't necessarily seem like it's 100% correct because it's not, the text doesn't specifically describe merely only one route, but rather it's the most correct out of the bunch. So what they'll do is they won't necessarily give you the most straightforward answer, but what they will do is give you an answer that stands out or has more correct aspects to it than the others. All right, let's move on. We've got the main idea. Now let's look at lines 1 through 8. From since to Marines. Now, one trick that I've learned is that you never just read what they tell you to read for that section. You want to read a little bit before and you want to read a little bit afterward. So one second, I'm going to go check again. What are the lines? Lines 1 through 8. Yes, they do like to give you one wrong. Or give you 2 that's completely wrong and 2 that are very close. Absolutely. So we have 1 through 8. Okay. And if the topics again, or if you notice that I would probably read this paragraph just quickly, just to skim it. So I would skim this paragraph. I'll give you guys like 30 seconds. All right. I'm done reading. You guys got to speed read. We're not reading it for pleasure. We're not reading it to have a good time and to be entertained. We're reading it for the test. Although, I mean, I'm glad if you guys do love it, but sometimes you got to focus on the exact things of the test first. All right. Consider Latin America dangerous. Now, do we see here specifically the editors viewed it as dangerous? I don't think so. I'm going to say it's a no. Next question. Worry about the safety of female correspondents? Where do we see the word safety? We see it once. Latin America was also considered safely and close to home. We do see that. But does it imply a worry? I don't know about that. I mean, sorry, we're looking at what it did except, another thing, we would underline the except. Can someone tell me what they think? Let me go. Let me see what you guys think. I already have it in my head what it is, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'll say right now that it's not trying to dissuade women from becoming foreign correspondents. But can someone tell me why? Did we see any of that in the text? If you don't have a specific piece of evidence in the text, then it can't be right. That's how these questions work. You don't think it's A or D? Let me see. Why do you think it's, 1 second. Why don't you think it's A or D? We're looking at what is implied. I mean, what is not implied. They did say a little bit of worry. They did talk about publishing stories by women. The two that are most similar is consider Latin America dangerous, but they don't really necessarily try to dissuade women from being correspondents. But let's look again at the text and see why. Which one is better? Remember, I think because there wasn't anything about lines in the lines about A. You're reading the question wrong, Ritika. If I'm saying your name correctly, I hope I'm not messing your name up. Please correct
Yeah, you're
me.
saying it correctly.
Awesome. The question is saying one big word. It's except. They did all of the following. They implied all of the following, except. So actually, the answer that you think is wrong is the answer that's right. They did imply a little bit of worry about the safety of women. They did talk about what the woman covered. And they did, I think the two closest answers are A and D, but I will say outright that A is the one that is least accurate because it's actually directly opposed in the question. They actually say that Latin America was considered safely close to home. However, the last one, I'm a little uncertain, but I think that A is the most accurate. So like you guys were saying, sometimes you won't see questions that give you like a more definitive answer, but you're going to go for the one that is the most accurate of the bunch. Now we're looking at question 3. What does the author mention in the first paragraph, lines 1 through 13, as a reason that female reporters were sent to Latin America? As a reason that female reporters were sent to Latin America in the first paragraph. So now we've got lines 1 through 13. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry guys. I accidentally for that second question was highlighting up to 13 when in reality we were supposed to be focusing on 1 through 8. It would have probably made more sense that way. I apologize. But now we're focusing on lines 1 through 13 for the third question, not the second. So we're focusing on a reason that the female reporters were sent to Latin America. So is it because Latin America was close to the United States? I think that could be it. For more female reporters than male reporters that spoke Spanish, that was never mentioned. Women were the accepted authorities on Latin America. That was never explicitly said. That's kind of stretch. That's more extreme. That's you never want to go to extremes with these kinds of questions. And the countries in Latin America admired female reporters. No, they never spoke outright about admiring them. They just mentioned that they were sent there in the first place. But A is one that we have evidence for, right? They do say that Latin America was considered safely close to home. Yes, A is the answer. Next question. We've got, it can be inferred from the first sentence of the passage that Nellie Bly was A, an editor, B, Latin America, C, working in Panama, or D, a foreign correspondent? Let's look in the first sentence. Latin America. Since the days of Nellie Bly, Latin America has been, for editors, a place to send women who insisted on being foreign correspondents. So immediately, did they say that Nellie Bly was Latin American? No. Did they discuss working in Panama? No. Did they discuss her being an editor? No. D is the only answer that's explicitly said. If the text doesn't say it, it's not the answer. It can never be the answer. Yes, it's D. You can't stretch the text. You can't try to make analysis out of it. No. If it's in the text and it aligns with an answer, it's the question. I mean, if it aligns with a question or one of the options, it's probably the answer. If it's like could possibly be, it's most likely not. Number 5, we've got according to the second paragraph, lines 14 through 22, the rise in Shirley Christian's reputation was a result of, let's see, 14 through 22. All right, I just read it over. You always want to read whenever they give you quotes and read carefully. Did they discuss her being a panelist on a weekly television show? No, that would have been cool though. The novelty of women being foreign correspondents. Again, no. Branching out to cover the world instead of only Latin America. Not only does that answer seem a little bit insulting, but it's also incorrect. The answer is C. Because they mentioned key public events. So that means that if they have more events going on there, revolution and terrorism, promoted the story, that also means that promoted the story page 1, and that means that there was public interest in it. That's why that's the answer. Lastly, we've got the author quotes Georgie Ann Geyer in lines 40 through 48 in order to show that, and let's see, let's go to lines 40 through 48. In my lifetime, I went from the beginning, from the point where women like me were considered misfits to a point where we became extremely fashionable and were ironically and incongruously called role models, to the third point, which is where we are trying desperately to have everything. Okay, he probably uses a lot of fancy language. Don't get caught up in it. That's not necessarily the main purpose of the question. Women helped prevent strife in Latin America. I don't even see the words Latin America mentioned in the quote. Therefore, that can't be the main purpose of the quote. B, many women desire to be role models. Well, let's see. I don't know if she's saying that they desire to be. She says they were ironically called role models. Not that necessarily they desire to be called role models. You got C? Okay. But if you're going to tell me that that's an answer, you got to give me a reason why. Why do you think it's C, Aiden? You got C. Female journalists had to overcome different problems at different times. Aiden.
It seems like it's the most like reasonable one.
It does, but you got to remember, sometimes even they all will seem reasonable. But the best answer as to why it is C is because the different problems. They've had to overcome different problems. She mentions 3 distinct problems in the career. The beginning, yeah. From the point where, there's actually 2 points, but I guess they just, whatever. So there's several distinct points in the text, which shows that there were different problems and at different points in her life. Now, as to why it's not D, they never really made a comparison between current and past female journalists. So that's why that's not correct. So it is C. Okay, guys, that's pretty much it for today. I have taken note of all of your topics and questions that you want to go over for math next week. Would you guys also like to do some writing? We can write a sample essay together. Although I'm going to need some responses. I'm going to need you guys to talk a little bit because I want to have as many ideas as possible to help us write the best essay. Okay? Yes?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
So that's a wrap for today, guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you next week. Have a great week, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Don't forget to go over these points in practice. All right. Bye-bye.